Excited about this. Get to do it a couple times every year. Todd McShay of ESPN. His mock draft is out now on ESPN.com. Updates those every couple weeks. What's up, man? About a month to go. Fired up.
Not much. I'm just sitting in this dark room watching tape. Did Cam Jones, a 6th-round linebacker from Indiana this morning. So that's about where my life is right now.
Okay. All right. Not a bad life, though. You know what you signed up for.
Yeah.
Let's start there then. Let's start at the top. Carolina makes the trade. I don't know how much that changes how this would have played out. Obviously, if the Bears kept the pick, it would change the story around it. So what do you think is a realistic set of options for what Carolina could do here with number one?
I had to update the mock draft that I did, the 3.0, immediately after. And I had Bryce Young going 1, and I just kept him there. The more I talk to people in the league and the more I kind of just analyze the situation, Frank Reich has always worked with bigger quarterbacks, pocket passers. I've got a list here. You ready? Peyton Manning, 6'5". Phillip Rivers, 6'5". Carson Wentz, 6'5". Nick Foles, 6'6". Andrew Luck, 6'4". Jacoby Brissett, 6'4". Matt Ryan, 6'4". And you've got a 5'10" and change quarterback in Bryce Young, who's up to 204 pounds. And I think he's magic. I think he's the best quarterback in the class. I would take him number 1. But I don't know that fits what they're looking for. C.J. Stroud is 6'3". He's built a little bit bigger. He's still kind of a lean frame guy, but he is. If you're looking for the best pure pocket passer in this class, it's Stroud. So to me, Stroud makes the most sense. The wild card in all of it is Anthony Richardson, who completed 53% of his passes this past year, up and down, looked like a Heisman Trophy winner, the number 1 overall pick against Utah. I had him the next week against Kentucky, and they absolutely shut him down. And he looked like a guy that just was lost. And it was kind of like that all season long, up and down. He had 2 400 passing yard games. He had 2 100-yard rushing games. But some of the other games, when they take away certain things and they're gap discipline, and they don't allow him to run, it really limits what he can do at this point. So he has the lowest floor, but the highest ceiling of all of these quarterbacks. So he would be interesting. I don't think it'll be Richardson at number 1, but I have heard that Frank Reich, the head coach, is really intrigued by what he could do developing him. But C.J. Stroud seems to me like the best fit for Carolina at 1. And then in Houston, you get Bryce Young. And then the big question is at number 3, Arizona would be crazy not to move out of that 3 spot, because especially if it's a trade just moving back 1 spot with Indianapolis. Chris Ballard, the GM, has put together everything but a quarterback. And he's tried the veteran route over and over again, and it just hasn't worked. And so you've got Vegas sitting there at 7, needing a quarterback. They could move up to number 3 and get ahead of Indianapolis. And now you're Indy, and you're getting the 4th best quarterback. Maybe he's the 2nd best quarterback on your board, but he's the 4th quarterback to come off the board. So that to me is the next domino to fall. I don't know if it will be draft night or when it will happen, but I'll be shocked if Arizona, if we get to the first night of the draft, if they wind up picking number 3.
Okay, all right. So I have follow-ups on all of them. I love Bryce too. I think his reading of defenses, like if you were going to try to bet on that intangible thing that seems so impossible to predict with quarterbacks, like he would be the best bet of any of the intangible stuff, of not being overwhelmed, poise, all the stuff you want. But, you and I had talked about what he weighed when he was at Bama, and it wasn't even close to 204. Those could have been exaggerations. I also wonder with the combine, if you go straight up, like I am going to find a way to tip the scales at over 200 pounds, right, even though it's not really who you are. Like I wonder if you just go, we have to have a 2 in front of this number, and then all you're doing is trying to find a way to put on any kind of weight just to make sure that number seems more acceptable. He's not small. He's like the smallest.
He's been working like crazy. And I met with him. I covered him for the Mississippi State game. And I can tell you, you meet with quarterbacks like not Carson Wentz, Will Levis. I had met with him a couple of weeks earlier. He's 6'4", 225. He looks the part. C.J. Stroud is a little bit lean, but he's got the height. Anthony Richardson, I told you I did the Kentucky game. You meet with him, and it's like you're looking at a giant, 6'4", 244 pounds. Obviously, the mobility and the arm strength. But just shaking Bryce Young's hand and standing next to him and talking to him. It's like, man, I'm worried. Like, he has everything you want. I've never seen a quarterback at the college level who's like this, just poised. Like, nothing affects him. Herb Street and I talked about it, and he had a great comparison that I think you'll appreciate it as a basketball guy. He's Steph Curry. Like Steph had everything but the size, but because he has such a good feel and an innate sense, and even like the throws for a touchdown and walking away with a hand up, and just the confidence that he has in his game and knowing where everyone is, the ability to extend. He has everything that you're looking for, except you're worried about that frame. And Tua Tagovailoa is kind of a similar situation, coming out of Alabama, undersized. Miami is rolling when he's healthy. And then all of a sudden the concussion happens. He's not 100%, and the organization falls apart in the second half of the season. So that's what you're worried about if you're an NFL team is can he play 17 games every year? He was mostly durable the last couple of years at Alabama, but he did have the shoulder problem. He had the shoulder injury that kind of limited him from throwing during the weeks of practice for about 3 weeks. And then they had a bye week. But ultimately, it really comes down to that. It's going to be team preference and the level of concern about his size.
Yeah, and there are guys that are 6'4", 230 that fit the bill, be on the cover of the magazines that go top 10, and they stink. So that's kind of where I landed on it a month or so ago, where I was like, you've loved watching this guy play football the entire time. If I had the number one pick, I don't think I could pass on him, even though history tells me, like, look, Kyler and Tua get hurt. They're on the smaller side. Russell Wilson was thicker. Breeze really is the anomaly. I don't know if you had the note, but was there some number that, like, Bryce would be the smallest first rounder taken since 2006, was it?
Yeah, over the last decade. I know at least the last 10 years, but I think 2006 might be right.
Right. So, I hope it works out for him. Let's get on the Richardson part of this, because I think this is kind of an interesting thing is, like, I watch all day Saturday, I watch all day Sunday, right? Not like I'm not looking for an award here, but there's a lot of Sunday people that don't watch any Saturday, right? Yep. There's a lot of Sunday people that are very protective of Sunday, and they almost like look down on the people that like Saturday too. And I was like, if you ever reverse the scenario where if I said, well, I only watch college football, but here's what I think about every single NFL player,
right?
You would be like, why am I listening to you? And, you can watch tape and you can do the combine and all that kind of stuff too. But if you watched Anthony Richardson this past year, which is really funny because you came on early, I remember he was projected as a first rounder and I was going off of 2 years ago. I was like, that seems crazy to me. And then he has the Utah game where I'm like all in, and then he wasn't good. He just wasn't good. And you had even said something like they had changed coverages on him and he hadn't quite figured it out. I think it's kind of funny to watch all the Sunday guys fall in love with somebody who just didn't look like he was very good at the position, and now he's going to go top 10 with 13 career starts and bad numbers.
Yeah, it's all about traits and being able to develop. Like, if Josh Allen doesn't get with Brian Daboll, Josh Allen isn't Josh Allen. Look at what Daniel Jones this past year. I mean, they were done with him. He was going to go somewhere else, probably as a backup.
Yeah, when they don't pick you up your option, that's a pretty good sign that they're done with you. Right.
Yeah, so they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. All of a sudden, Daboll comes in, works with him, gets him comfortable, gets him to, in plays that work for him, and it works out. But there's no guarantee, and there's only a handful of Daybulls out there. Like Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal talent. There's no question about it, but his mechanics were disgusting in college. He told me, I did the Chiefs preseason games for a few years. We sat down and talked, and he said, Todd, I couldn't identify the Mike, meaning the middle linebacker. He's like, I was like 60% identifying the Mike, which is something you can do in high school. He just never had to do it with the offensive system that he was in. But he had Alex Smith, who was a veteran, a genius, and was willing to work with him for a full year and taught him a lot of things. He had Andy Reid, who was a great quarterback developer and an offensive, mind and genius, and had that year to kind of sit back and learn. And all of a sudden, he has the opportunity to come in and play at the level that he has played at. So, to me, Vegas makes a lot of sense. They just brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Jimmy can be your starter for this year. and let Anthony Richardson work behind Jimmy, learn from him, learn how, like, what it takes to be a pro, learn all the little things, like the nuances of the position, learn how to read coverages better, work on his footwork and the consistency of his mechanics. And then all of a sudden, maybe you have something special in year 2 or year 3. So, but if it's Indianapolis and he's got to go play right away, I don't know what to expect. And you also, like, you got to remember the Ravens, the Eagles, they took not just like their offense, but organizationally, they structured everything around their quarterbacks and what they did. And Lamar, when he came in the league, was not the passer that Lamar is today. You know, he has developed so much because of the time he's had and the work he's been able to put in. But I remember talking to John Harbaugh, and it's like, it's not just the offense we're going to put in. It's not just that we're going to allow him to run and utilize his mobility and really take advantage of it, but we're loading up on defense. We're going to be great on special teams. We're like, this whole organization is going to work to make sure that he is put in the best spot to win. And the Eagles did the same thing, in their situation too. So, and then all of a sudden you start to see Jalen Hurts get better and better as a passer. And remember, last year at this time, we were talking about the Eagles making a trade and getting an extra first-round pick, potentially to be in this market for one of these top 4 quarterbacks, because they weren't sure what Hurts was going to be. And then Hurts has the season that he has, and now they're in great shape and they can build around him. So, and I know people get frustrated and say, well, what's he going to be? Tell me what he's going to be. Project what he's going to be. I know what he can be, but I also know what the failure level could be. And it all depends on the coaching staff, the organization, and the patience. You've got to go to an organization that has patience and like the opportunity to be patient in order to allow him to develop.
Okay, we haven't really touched on Stroud enough. The Georgia game was incredible. You've called it the best game of his career, considering the stakes. I don't know that there's much debate. He ran more, which I think everybody, especially in college, wants at least that threat, that dynamic there, and he was terrific. I don't know if the Ohio State QB thing is even a thing yet. I've brought it up in the past where, you look at some of the other guys that didn't work out. Like, am I really going to get, like, am I going to look at Ohio State and be like, because Cardale Jones and JT Barrett and Haskins, unfortunately we lose him, so it's too early. It's too early to talk about that with Fields. I guess the only thing that I would think is fair is that Ryan Day and that group, they run such an amazing offense.
Yes. That
there's open throws all season long. And you're better talent-wise than pretty much everybody you're going to play. Like, there's a gap with half of your schedule where it's not even close, because Ohio State has, like, I know Big Ten fans are going to want to hear this, but they have comparable SEC talent throughout the entire roster. And if Michigan is in an up year, then maybe we can talk about them being close in talent. I know they've gotten them the last couple of years in that matchup. But when I watch Ohio State games, I'm so impressed with what they do, but also realizing, man, there's a massive gap with the dudes they're going up against. And on top of like a 2-year run of 4 NFL receivers that are all studs, that I am telling you, I wouldn't bet either way on Stroud. And again, as I do this more and more, I become more clueless about who's going to be good in the pros. But I wonder if there's that kind of conversation in NFL circles of like the advantage Ohio State has because of their great coaching and because of the talent mismatch they face most of their schedule.
I'm not as worried about like the past guys because Stroud is different.
He's so much better than them, right? Or, even Fields.
Yes. And Justin Fields, we've seen he's a great runner and he's great off script. He's not great in the pocket. And what Stroud is the exact opposite. He is great inside the pocket. He processes like this. I mean, just from one read to the next. He does a great job of getting the ball out quickly. He has the arm strength. He has the smoothest delivery and throws the best ball of all the quarterbacks in this class.
I got to see him in person, and he does when it's a bunch of other dudes that are all like at his level resume wise and all that kind of stuff. Seeing Stroud throw in person was one of the more impressive things I've seen.
Yeah, and even like the combine means nothing to me from a throwing standpoint, outside of the fact that you get to see him live and you get to see like one after the other. And if you were just dropped on this planet and it was the first time you saw any of these quarterbacks throw, it was so damn obvious who the best passer was in the group with C.J. Stroud. I mean, just the ball just comes off his hands so purely. The ball placement, the trajectory, everything that you look for is there. The biggest knock on him was use your feet, man. Like create, extend. Like with Bryce, things would fall apart, and everything was in slow motion for him, and nothing was working too fast for him. And he would even did he's a smaller Patrick Mahomes to me, like the Mahomes thing where he's rolling out and has like the presence of mind to look back as he's rolling to his right to see how much time he has to extend the play, to wait for his receiver to get open down the field, feels the pressure, and then gets the ball out right on time. Like little things like that add up and are becoming, the college game. It used to be the NFL game would trickle down to the college level. The college game is trickling up to the NFL level. Part of it is just poor quarterback play. Part of it is a lot of the spread offenses, the RPOs, and all those different things, and not asking quarterbacks to be pure pocket passers, going through progression reads and doing all the things that we were so used to with, Mannings and Brady's and Breezes and, all the great quarterbacks in the last 15 years. But to me, Bryce Young shows the ability to extend, and he does it with such poise and ease that it's unique. Stroud, we got to see finally in that Georgia game. It's almost like he had a month leading up to that game of listening to everyone say, he's not playing to his potential. He won't run. He's afraid to run. He doesn't want to extend plays. And he got pissed off and decided, I'm taking over this game. And if he can bottle that up and bring that to the NFL and start to do more of that, he's got a chance to be a star. He really does. He is that pure of a passer. And he's not a great athlete, but he's mobile enough. He's mobile enough to extend plays, as we saw. If you can extend plays against Georgia and have that kind of success against that defense, you can do it in the NFL.